All right. Good afternoon, everybody. 37 minutes. That's all I have for video. I'll be home by then. But still, I don't know why the video is so whatever. I took some pictures of an airplane. I don't know. Anyway, in fact, I got rid of a lot of stuff on my phone. All right, whatever it is, we'll have to start over again. Well, question and answer time. We used to have Ask the Rabbi Tuesday, so now it's Thursday, and who knows when this will make it up. It takes a long time to upload from my Wi-Fi for some reason. I find 4G is faster than my own Wi-Fi in some places. I was away from home for a couple of days at a conference with the Pennsylvania Prison Chaplains Association. It was very nice. I was actually a presenter there on a panel. Spoke about mental health and chaplaincy, and I got a lot of compliments, which was nice, because I was kind of nervous, because I just wore my heart in my sleeve and just said what I really believed, even if it's not politically correct, and I think a lot of people appreciated that, even though I'm sure there were some people who didn't, but I say what's on my mind. I highly recommend, if you go on Torah Anytime or YU Torah or wherever you listen, there's a shiur that Rabbi Moshe Weinberger gave in Chicago this week, and it was, first of all, it was great. The shiur was great, but I grew up with Rabbi Weinberger, and I don't think he said one story there or anything there that I'd heard before. Sometimes he has his classical stories, like the one with the Baal Shem Tov, looking over the water, the ice, and they were ice skating. The Christians were ice skating religious symbols into the ice, and that's a story he tells often. But this was, or any number of stories that he tells a lot, and this one was all stuff I hadn't heard. I don't listen to him as much as I used to, so maybe, but I was like, I was amazed by it, because Rabbi Fishbane tells the story of Rav Chaim Berlin was the Rav in Moscow. He was offered a position maybe in a smaller town, but a bigger frum community, to be Rav, which would be more prestigious. To be the chief rabbi of a city like Moscow, it's not a very prestigious position. It makes me think of, I think it was Rabbi Jonathan Sachs said that he had something on his wall where there was an installation for a new chief rabbi in England, and it was a newspaper clipping, and it said something about the new high priest of the Hebrews being installed in London, and Rabbi Sachs said in those days the chief rabbi was a high priest, and now he's the scapegoat. But in those days, I think it was also a scapegoat. And like the Satmar Rav said, why? And in the old days, the Rabbanim would sign their name Hakotan, and now so many rabbis sign their name Harav, which I think is very tasteless for any rabbi to sign. It's one thing you're going to write an English rabbi, I understand that, but to write in Hebrew your own name, Harav, I only really seen conservative rabbis do that, but I guess maybe some modern Orthodox rabbis do that too. And to write Harav when you're signing your own name, I mean, even the Gedolei Hador, on their letterhead, in English it would say Rabbi so-and-so, and Hebrew would just say their name without the Harav, and then underneath it would say what they do, if they're Av Bezdin the so and so, or Admor may so and so, or a Yeshiva of so and so, whatever. So he said, why in the old days the Rabbonim, they would sign their name Hakotan, and now they write Harav? He said, because it's a bigger bezoyan to be Harav than to be Hakotan. And nowadays, when you sign Hakotan, unless you're a big Rebbe, it also looks kind of arrogant, but because look who thinks he's a small guy, look who thinks he's nothing, but that's how it is. So anyway, I go back to what we were talking about. So I highly recommend this year because it was all brand new. And so, I was thinking about what Rabbi Weinberger said about Rav Chaim Berlin was the Rav in Moscow, and he was offered a position somewhere that was much more prestigious. Maybe it would be less lucrative financially, but religiously would be more prestigious, and maybe they were offering him more money too. I don't know. That part I don't know. It doesn't matter. So anyway, he said, that, just trying to think, they said, his daughter came to him and said, it says in Pirkei Avos, it says, Mar b'yeshiva, mar b'chochma. The more you sit in one place, the wiser you become. So she told him, if you would go, you already have a nice repertoire of sermons that you've given over the years. If you go somewhere new, you could just use those. You don't need to. You don't need anything new. As long as you stay in the same place, you have to come up with something new every now and then. But here, Rabbi Weinberger, a guy to Fremdeplatz, he goes to Chicago, and he's using all new material, as far as I know. But maybe, how much do I know? I don't listen to him all the time. Anyway, I highly recommend it. Beautiful shiur, very nice. I have my criticisms that I'd like to talk to him about, and a lot of it has to do with the way I live and the way he lives. He's around Jews all the time, I'm around people of different religions all the time, and I feel very comfortable around them. I feel, when I visit these other faith groups, I see the commonality that we have. So, and that's strange for someone in the Orthodox Jewish world. I know I'm a little out of the box. Even for those who go and work as chaplains and so forth, maybe they don't feel the same way that I do. But I authentically feel, and I know Rabbi Bar Tzadok says this a lot, that I have much more in common with the Christians and the Muslims, and even with the Buddhists and the Hindus and the Chveis, the Native Americans and the Wiccans, the Odinists, or whoever they are. I feel for them. I feel, and Reconstructionist rabbi who just joined the and he says to me, Shana Tova, and I say to him, Shana Tova, and I don't feel the achva, the brotherhood with him. I mean, maybe eventually I'll grow into it. He's obviously very different than I am. He's a very different approach to life, very different lifestyle, very different ideology on many levels. Whereas, as much as I have valid differences with Chabad Lubavitch, with the Lubavitcher rabbis, I feel it's a chemish, these are my brothers, that's, and they're, and I tell the Muslims, I said, even if I'm not your brother, at least I'm your cousin, and the same thing is true, with the other faiths. Look at, there's all these, conspiracy theories about Native Americans being the lost tribes of Israel, and you hear what they have, some of these tribes, some of these, they have things like Nida, and they have, all kinds of things that are very, very similar. And you wonder, and the sanctification of dance, and we talk about how the Baal Shem Tov, believed there's, holy sparks in tobacco, and somewhat turned smoking tobacco into a religious devotion of sorts. Not that, maybe by now all the tzitzis are gone and we don't do that anymore. We shouldn't. But in the old days, that's how it was. And I'll still, once every couple of years on Purim, maybe smoke a cigar, But, and have a little bit of that in mind. But there were tzaddikim that, there was an avoider like that. This Glenn Rebbe, this Chusia Gamleno. Oh, Rani Kaparis Mishkavaya. Oh, I miss this Glenn Rebbe. But yeah, I was there finally. I couldn't bring myself to go there to this Glenn Rebbe. It was, I had to push myself to go to the Siyum, because I felt like I'm not worthy. But he was such a holy man. I'm interested maybe to go to Kish. We have a few Sklener Rebbes now. I'd like to go see something, but it's nice that there's still Sklener Rebbes in the world. It's nice that there's still a Tasher Rebbe in the world, and I know they're all very choshev. But what we miss. Tasher Rebbe I only saw once. With the Sklener Rebbe I used to go all the time, and I hadn't been there in a few years. And every time I would see him once a year or so, even not talk to him, just go to the Tish, and I would just daven I should see him again next year. And we stopped coming to the country for the summer. It got to be too difficult to go to the city, and I didn't go to Levaya, but I don't know. It's anyway, time is 13 minutes in. How much time have I wasted on this video? Because I wanted to answer some of the questions that we had over the week, that I'd like to address. Some questions I received publicly, some I received privately. I think it's time to just make a separate video on those. But this was just, I wanted to spend some time with you all. Thank you for watching. If you watched, I God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe, comment, and thank you. All right, and thank God I had a very nice few days at this conference, and it was special, and we had a lot going on, so Baruch Hashem, and I thank Hashem for these opportunities, and the pleasantness to get away a little bit. But I miss my wife very much. I miss my kids, and I was hoping they were going to come spend the day with me, but they weren't up to it. So managed to get a little bit of work on the way home. Have a little bit of extra gas money, which was nice, and I thank HaKadosh Baruch for that. it's so wonderful when these little surprises come along. And I did my Ashtadlis. I'm there on Thumbtack, and it just came. This one just fell into my lap. Just a little bit of money, not a lot, not a little, a decent amount of money for doing almost nothing, and it shows that God runs the world. The same thing. I want to talk a little bit about that, because someone was asking me before I finish this and start making videos about the questions that I've received. An imam approached me and asked me how. He said they have a big problem in Turkey where parents are pious, devout Muslims, and the children become deists. So, all right, they made it to the 1700s. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be disrespectful there. And how to deal with that, and he said, they in America it's a different problem, because the kids, they go to public schools, they go to the secular colleges, and they lose their. And I said the only way to maintain this. And he said, "What's the secret? How do the Jews do it?" I said, "We don't send our kids to public schools. We try not to send our kids to secular colleges if possible. And those that do, they get lost just the same." I said, "Most of the Jewish people are lost. What are you talking about? He didn't realize it, because he sees, So it's a very. And so I told him the story of Rabbi from Strelisk, that the Moreno Harav, my Rebbe, the Kal Rebbe Shlita, always shares with us as such an important story, such a yesodistic story, such a fundamental story, that there was some Hasidim, they didn't have, their Rebbe passed away, they're looking for a new Rebbe, and they go to Rebbe from Strelisk, the Sarah from Strelisk. He was the dragon, the angel, the fiery dragon angel from Strelisk, the Sarah. And Rabbi asked him, "Do you believe in divine providence?" And they said, "Of course." What's the question? We're Hasidic, He said, "So do you believe that?" He said, "Look at that wagon full of straw. Do you believe that it was preordained from the 6 days of creation? Which stalk, which grain of straw would be above, which would be below, which would be to this side, to that side, and which one would fall off the wagon at exactly which time?" And they said, "That's a little too far-fetched, no." And he said, "Get out of here, you're heretics." So then they felt very bad, and they thought about it, and they realized, to a human being, gold is very valuable, silver is less valuable, and copper is less valuable. It's still very valuable. And then you get down to paper and straw, and you throw in the garbage. It doesn't mean anything. But to God, everything's the same. Nothing is more valuable or less valuable to him. So either everything. So then, they told that to Rabbi, and he was makabel them to be Hasidim, So that's the answer that I have. But that's an answer in my tradition. But there's some logic to what's being said. Meaning, if you accept, and not only that, but I embellished it a little bit, because he did say Misheshis Yimei Bereshis. He said from the 6 days of creation. So I realized that and I said to the imam, I said, time is a creation of God. God transcends time. And so if God is the creator God, so then the divine providence is built in from the 6 days of creation already. It's built into the creation because time is a construct that we understand, because we live within the creation that is within the construct of time. But where God's existence is, whatever that means, however we're to understand that, is above time. So therefore, when God created the world with time, to God it's all existing at once, and that's where the divine providence exists. So meaning that's a logical answer to the question of deism versus theism. And we know, even though, a lot of, and of course all theists are deists, but they're more than deists, they're theists also. But the thing is that I know they like to paint the founders as mere deists because maybe they weren't the most church-going people. But the thing is it's not exactly. It's not exactly. Some of them were very church-going, like John Adams was a church dude, But Washington, he went to church every now and then, but he also would disagree with the pastor and sometimes get up and leave if he didn't like what he heard. And Washington, though, and when he referred to the divine, he would refer to providence. So that's not deism. That's what we're talking about here. So, all right. Please like, share, and subscribe, comment. I guess that's worth for a video. But let's make another video separate that we can answer some of these questions. Even though I only have a few minutes left, we'll do what we could do. All right. I still have 15 minutes. Thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe, comment. We'll see you later.